Most resellers waste hours every single week digging through junk inventory. But what if you could consistently find the best stuff? I mean, the kind of items that sell fast and bring real profit. Well, today I'm going to show you how exactly I do it and how you can too. My name's Ty Wilson. I host a show called Chasing Cardboard, and in the past 5 years, I've done over 70,000 transactions and more than $4 million in eBay sales. But here's the truth. I face the same challenge as you, which is finding great inventory. But the good news is I figured out a few key strategies that actually work, and I'm going to give them all to you right now. Well, most of them. If you want the last few secrets, you're going to need to join my free email list, which is below, and it takes about 10 seconds to join. Okay, so let's set the framework. I mostly resell sports cards and collectibles, but these sourcing strategies apply to just about any inventory type. And sure, having a show like Chasing Cardboard brings in some leads, I still rely on the exact same tactics I'm about to share with you. And finally, let's be honest, there is no easy button for sourcing inventory. It takes work, but once you find a good rhythm, it's one of the best feelings in the world. Now, let's talk about the seller journey, because your ability to land great deals comes down to how well you understand where they're at as a seller. Here's my very basic psychological breakdown. On the far left side of the journey, you have the oh cool stage, where the seller hasn't even really thought about the idea of selling the items. Maybe someone introduced you to them. Maybe a friend mentioned he or she should sell their items. Or maybe there was a slight emotional trigger that just got them thinking about the idea. The next stage to the right is the convince me stage. This is the part of the journey where the seller is formally entertaining the idea of selling. They may even have the item listed or have socialized what they want to sell, but the price is usually something like, make me an offer that I can't refuse. This is common with collectibles that carry some emotional attachment or a higher sunk cost. It's technically for sale, but the offer needs to greatly favor the seller. Moving on to the next stage, into the marketplace phase. This is pretty simple. The seller is 100% interested in selling their inventory. They have the items maybe placed in the marketplace or two, and they even know the price they want for it. The marketplace usually facilitates the sale, and it's just a matter of the right buyer finding the right item. Then comes the convince you stage, which is where things get a little interesting, because it usually means the seller has progressed down the line and is now beginning to become detached from the items. You'll notice a shift in tone and more language like, let's make a deal, or what would it take to make this happen? It's also the result of items sitting in the marketplace for a while, or the seller simply needing the money for other things. And finally, the far right stage is when the seller is completely disconnected. As a buyer, this is nirvana, because you don't have to create any urgency. It's already there. In addition, the seller has completely removed their emotions from the items, and they've essentially already sold them in their minds. For high value items, it's rare to get to this point, but it does happen. Okay, the reason I bring up the seller journey is because your ability to get amazing inventory has a lot to do with you identifying what stage the seller is in and making offers that respect their current state. We'll come back to this here in a minute, but now the fun part. 6 places for you to find inventory, starting with my personal favorite, the newspaper. That's right. The number one source of good leads for me over the past 3 years has been a simple advertisement in local newspapers. I know it's 2025 and everything is digital, but that's why this has worked so well for me. The ad is extremely elementary and it says, buying sports cards will pay cash. And if I have room for language beneath that, I'll add something like, we'll come to you and we'll help you free up space, along with my email address and my phone number. That's it. The beautiful thing is the newspaper ad reaches into a demographic it's hard to connect with. And a simple ad that helps someone connect baseball cards with cash and extra space has worked for years. In addition, the cost is $200 or less. I'd find your local newspaper and definitely spend a few bucks and advertise. The next great spot is on Facebook, but it's not where you'd think. You can absolutely go find decent inventory in the Facebook marketplace, but everyone and their grandma is searching through the marketplace. The secret sauce on Facebook is creating an ad and targeting the location and demographic that you want to buy from. And then in that ad, allowing them to submit a form on the actual advertisement that qualifies the collection up front. Facebook is the largest galaxy of leads that you'll ever have access to, and creating an ad plus form is like a cheat code for gathering leads. But I'll warn you, if you don't learn the game, it can get expensive because you're paying per lead that you generate. So I'd highly recommend joining our free email list because I'm working on a step-by-step guide for Facebook lead generation, and the email list will get access to it first. Learn Facebook lead generation to start automating the number of leads being dumped into the top of your funnel. Next is bulletin boards. The best inventory is likely sitting in your community or your neighborhood right this moment. So you got to go to where the community is and get the word out. And an easy way to do that is to go to your local coffee shops, your libraries, or even parallel businesses and put up your one-page ad on the bulletin board. It usually costs you nothing, and it will likely lead to some juicy leads. You print the page, you tack it to the board, and you wait for the right call. This is extremely simple, but nobody does it. Now, you might be noticing a trend here. Finding inventory is a game of simply thinking outside the box, and it really is. Those first 3 ideas will get you access to inventory that others don't have because others aren't doing these things. But the next few ideas will help you energize the more common methods, starting with the yard sales and the garage sales. These are obviously becoming hotbeds for content creators, and sellers are usually up on pricing, so finding insane deals is hard to do, but you can find those deals, and here's how I'd recommend you do it. First, hunt down midweek sales. Those often go unnoticed and they get a lot less traction. Second, always ask the seller for what you want. For instance, if you're buying video games, say, hey, do you have any video games for sale? This cuts to the chase, and if it's not out there, they'll at least think about whether they want to bring something that they have out to you. Third, always ask the seller, is there anything else that you're trying to get rid of? Every seller has those items that they thought twice about, and it didn't get to the table. Fourth, bring cash for all deals. You will find great stuff over time, but without cash, you will not get the deal done. Offer cash for inventory and magical things happen. The next spot for inventory is peer relationships. Let's use sports cards, for example. If you are a reseller, go to your local TCG or comic shop and build a relationship with the owner today. Let them know that you'll pass them any leads for inventory that they might want in exchange for them thinking about you when a sports card seller comes into the store. And then head over to the antique shop and mention that you're always looking for quantity of specific inventory that you want, and that you'll pay them a referral if they pass the leads to you. And then next, head over to the flea market and start building relationships with the flea market sellers, because over time, they'll begin thinking of you when inventory comes up. If you prioritize some of those relationships and make sure it's reciprocal, they'll eventually lead to some great friendships and some very strategic inventory. Bonus tip, have business cards made up with your information on it. I mean, it'll cost you pennies and nobody does it anymore. It's an easy way to stay on someone else's radar. The next place for inventory is to simply buy out the store. This strategy is not for the faint of heart, but if you want to go all in really quick, try to find an opportunity to buy out everything. This works well for antique booths, flea market tables, and even garage sales, but it also works for eBay stores. The key is finding inventory first off that you want, and then tossing out the idea of potentially just buying everything they have. At the very least, it starts the conversation, but in some cases, you find the buyer who is extremely far down that right side of the journey and doesn't want to deal with stuff any longer. Questions like, would you entertain selling everything you have? Or, man, I love your inventory. Have you thought about just selling it all in one transaction? Those will get the conversation going, and you'd be surprised. It might be a little bit more costlier, but it fast tracks inventory for your business, so you want to see if those pop up. The last inventory strategy is the gold nugget. If you crack this code, you will come across some insane opportunities, and that is word of mouth. When someone else introduces you to one of their friends or their leads, it immediately puts you in the driver's seat of the deal. So many of the new opportunities that you come across require you to build that credibility, but with word of the mouth, you skip the line. Here's how you get word of the mouth opportunities. Number one, you treat people with respect. I mean, no questions asked. Number two, when you get a deal done, you leave your business card and you say, hey, pass this on to a friend. And number three, a few days later after you close a deal, you shoot them a text or an email and you say, hey, thanks again for the great deal. And if you know anyone else, just let me know. It's really that simple. It's obviously not instantaneous, but when a word of mouth deal comes along, it can be amazing. put yourself out there and continually work to take care of people, and those friends of friends will be calling you for their inventory. Those are some methods that I highly recommend for acquiring inventory. But the final piece of the puzzle is that you understand how to relate to where the seller is along their journey, because the secret to getting the best inventory at the best prices is becoming a buyer who can relate to the seller. Your questions and your approach to a seller on the far left or early part of the journey need to be focused on building rapport and common ground. Questions like, I love what you have. How did you acquire this? Or, gosh, I hope you figure out when you want to sell this because I'd love to have these types of things. Or maybe something like, man, my customers love these widgets. When you're ready to sell, just let me know. And as you progress down the right side of the seller journey, your questions then become more transactionally focused. Questions like, what type of deal would make you happiest? Or is there a dollar amount that would motivate you to sell today? Or maybe something like, if we could agree to a price, would you let all of this go today? My best purchases in the last 5 years have come from patiently listening to the seller and working with them through their selling journey and having a good understanding of where they're at. If you jump into every transaction with a mindset that you're just gonna walk out with a deal, you'll get deals, but your runway will be super short. But if you approach each deal with being the buyer who learns to relate to the seller, you're gonna find that you'll build a much stronger pipeline of deals. Yes, this means that you will not get every deal. Instead, you're just gonna get some deals, but then you'll get a call next week for a second deal, and then you'll get a call next month for a third larger deal, and then you'll get a call for a second word of the mouth opportunity. And before you know it, inventory will start finding you. Your reselling business hinges on good inventory, but your reselling business explodes based on a handful of deals every single year, and you have to work for those deals and those relationships. If this video helped you, smash that like button and subscribe if you're serious about growing your reselling business. And if you want more sourcing secrets, join the email list below because it's free and it's packed with all the good stuff. Catch you next time.